Hello and welcome. Tonight, recuperating Pope Francis marks Palm Sunday in Vatican Square, wants the church to be closed to those abandoned as Christians worldwide commemorate the triumphant entry of Christ into Jerusalem. Controversy over arrest of APC lawyers in River State put to rest as police release court documents to the APC governorship candidate in River State, Tonya Cole. Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project SERAP asked President Muhammadu Buhari to enforce the judgment of the ECOWAS court prohibiting prosecutions for cyber stalking. And at least 26 persons are dead after a series of tornadoes tore through parts of the United States. It's Palm Sunday, and Christians worldwide have been marking the day which commemorates the triumphant entry of Jesus Christ into Jerusalem. At the Vatican, Pope Francis has presided over Mass in St. Peter's Square as he kicked off events leading to Easter just a day after leaving hospital following a bout of bronchitis. The 86-year-old's admittance to hospital on Wednesday with breathing difficulties sparked concerns he may not be well enough to attend a series of rites in the most important week in the Christian calendar. The Pope, while addressing happy Catholics and other faithful at the Basilica Square, called on humans to be watchful of their neighbors, especially people living with difficulties amidst the present economic and natural issues bedeviling the globe.
I need Jesus to caress me, to come close to me too. And that is why I found him in the abandoned people, in the lonely ones. He wants us to care for the brothers and sisters who most resemble him, for him in the extreme act of pain and loneliness. Not only people, but today, dear brothers and sisters, there are so many abandoned Christs. There are entire peoples exploited and abandoned. The poor live on our streets and we look the other way. Migrants are no longer faces, but numbers. Prisoners are disowned. People written off as problems.
Here in Nigeria, Christians also converged in worship centers to observe Palm Sunday. In most churches, the day was celebrated by the blessing and distribution of palm branches, prayers, and thanksgiving.
Palm Sunday, also known as Passion Sunday, is a solemn Christian tradition that marks the first day of Holy Week and the Sunday before Easter, commemorating Jesus the Christ's triumphal entry into Jerusalem. The day is observed by many churches with the blessing and procession of palms using the leaves or stem from available trees, and here at Our Lady of Perpetual Help Catholic Church, Isheri, Lagos, faithful converge to mark the day. The parish and some parishioners read from the scriptures to drive home the message.
Watch and pray, that you may not enter into temptation.
Some parishioners explain the significance of the day.
We are entering the solemn week of celebrating the death of Jesus Christ.
This year's Palm Sunday in River State is marked with a difference at the All Saints Anglican Cathedral, Rumo Krushi in Obiakpo local government area, as members of the People's Democratic Party turn out in large numbers to thank God for the victories in the governorship and legislative assembly elections. Governor Nyesom Wike leads the governor-elect, Similaye Fubara, and others to appreciate God as the presiding bishop commends the party for recognizing God in their victory.
You must enter into the critical stage of your calling, which is the business of providing good governance. And I repeat, good governance you must provide.
Governor Nyesom Wike thanks the people for their support, admonishing his successor to stay focused.
I want to urge you, don't be afraid. God who gave you the mantle will never disappoint you. Be focused and do the work you are elected for. Leave the tribunal for your lawyers to do their work.
Parishioners of St. Paul's Catholic Church, Benin City, assembled to mark Palm Sunday, which precedes Easter Sunday. The parishioners were seen taking palm leaves in front of the grotto ahead of the activities to mark the day. Reverend Father Edwin Omorogbe led the believers in a procession to the grotto, offering prayers to the parishioners and also sprinkling of water. In Imo State, parishioners converged on the Maria Azumta Catholic Cathedral in Owerri, the state capital, to celebrate Palm Sunday. The chief celebrant of Mass is the Archbishop of Owerri Catholic Diocese, Lucius Ogoji. The parishioners take advantage of the Lent season to pray for peace, unity, and love in the country.
Let there be peace in our country. Let there be justice. Let there be prosperity that is equitable.
As we are celebrating Palm Sunday today, we should learn to live in harmony with each other and denounce any element of rancor amongst us.
The essence of the day, according to spiritual leaders, is to help believers replicate the example of Jesus' obedience and sacrifice.
It appears the dust over the arrest of the lawyers working for the governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress in River State, Mr. Tonya Cole, and the seizure of their court documents may have been settled. Earlier today, Mr. Cole and the state party chairman, Mr. Emeka Beke, retrieved the documents, laptops, and printers from the River State Police Command State Criminal Investigation Department, where they were being held. Our correspondent, Charles Oporom, reports.
I give to chair. The controversy involving the governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress in River State, Mr. Tonya Cole, his lawyers, and the River State Police Command may have taken a new turn following the eventual release of the documents previously confiscated by the police. Mr. Cole, who was accompanied by the state party chairman, Emeka Beke, as well as other senior party officials in the state, took possession of the documents and equipment at the State Criminal Investigation Department office in Port Harcourt, after which he briefed the press on what transpired.
All evidence and their draft and their written script was seized. And that was too dangerous. Leaving those things in the hands of unknown persons was too dangerous because that carries the base of our case. And so we had to start putting pressure on the police. NBA got involved, everybody got involved because it's unprecedented. We've never seen anything like this in Nigeria. Now it's taking over 36 hours, including sleeping here, refusing to leave before we can just say that some justice has been done.
Providing further details, he addresses the question of INEC as a defendant in the case being involved in verifying the same documents with which they would be prosecuted.
We are very vociferous in saying that INEC will be a defendant and so cannot look at the draft, legal draft, cannot look at what we are working on, cannot see into the computers, into our files, because they will be a defendant. And the police agreed with us, so they were the ones who took a look at it, verified that everything was okay on the legal part of it, so that INEC, who is going to be a defendant when we get to the tribunal, cannot see our argument.
The Rivers Police Command has explained the reason for the arrest of the lawyers whom it thought were involved in illegal acts. The lawyers have since been released, but the legal fireworks may take more interesting dimensions in the days ahead. Charles, Upper Room, Channels Television News, Port Harcourt.
Nobel laureate Professor Wole Soyinka says the incoming administration from May the 29th this year must place renewed focus on the persistent calls for restructuring the Nigerian Federation. Otherwise, its programs and policies will face serious challenges. Professor Soyinka told Channels Television's Ladia Keredoluale on our election issues and personalities tracking program, Roadmap 2023, in his first public comments since the elections, that a mold has been broken during this election cycle.
Whoever it is must understand the fact that this country will not cease, the people will not cease demanding a restructuring of this nation. And the sooner it is addressed as part and parcel of the process of governance, of making laws, of debating, of even economic reforms, fiscal attributions, etc., devolution of power within what is possible along the way to the lower tiers of governance, in which I'm always more interested than the center. And so there must be that focus, the good governance, but also a view of the direction of society. If the two do not go pari passu, the incoming regime will fail, because new voices are being heard, and they are more powerful than before. They are not just whining voices, they are voices,
or wailing voices.
They are voices based on actualities. We have failed in so many directions, and they are saying, let us debate this particular direction. Let's try this direction. And you cannot ignore it. You just cannot. Otherwise, even your economic policies will fail. Your infrastructural transformations will fail. We'll just go back, treading the same old spore. Security, of course. This is part and parcel of the restructuring that we're talking about. Security is at the heart of it. When you devolve the means, the power and authority and equipment to the grassroots levels, structured, of course, not just vigilantes or anywhere, then people begin to feel comfortable in their own homes. They begin to feel part and parcel of the security system. But if you sit in Aso Rock, with all the tanks surrounding you, and think that, yes, you can, the moment you can send some armored tanks there, I can send some there, you're going to fail. Security has got to be integrated. Just like food production, food distribution, just like culture itself. Security has got to become part and parcel of the cultural life of these people. And that'll only happen through decentralization, a meaningful one.
For the full interview with Professor Soyinka, do watch Roadmap 2023 tomorrow, Monday, April the 3rd at 9 p.m. right here on Channels Television. In part two, after the break, Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project SERAP asks President Muhammadu Buhari to enforce the judgment of the ECOWAS court prohibiting prosecutions for cyber stalking. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television. A reminder of our main stories. Recuperating Pope Francis marks Palm Sunday in Vatican Square, wants the church to be closed to those abandoned as Christians worldwide commemorate the triumphant entry of Christ into Jerusalem. Controversy over arrest of APC lawyers in Rivers State put to rest as police release court documents to the APC governorship candidate in Rivers, Tonya Cole. Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project asks President Muhammadu Buhari to enforce the judgment of the ECOWAS court prohibiting prosecutions for cyber stalking. And at least 26 persons are dead after a series of tornadoes tore through parts of the United States. So let's go back to our top story on Palm Sunday and how it was celebrated, at this time in parts of the north. We'll now bring you how it was definitely marked in Kwara in the north central, where Christians were joined other faithful from across the world. They took their procession to major streets of Ilorin, the Kwara state capital, with calls to emulate the humility of Jesus Christ. The deputy governor who joined them took the occasion to preach peace as being the only ingredient that could bring development to the country. He also took the occasion to advise those who lost the just concluded election to re-strategize for future polls rather than clog the wheel of progress. The celebration was also in Kano State in the northwest. At a service to mark the day, a priest in St. Stephen's Anglican Church, Reverend Ugochukwu Victor Anyachebe, called upon people to embrace the spirit of love and compassion towards each other. He emphasized the importance of love as a central message of Christianity and urged the people to let go of their differences and come together in the spirit of brotherhood, as exemplified by Jesus Christ.
It is a time for you to get accustomed to the nature of God. Get accustomed to what Christ did on earth. And what did he do? He lived a selfless life. He lived for others. The center message of Christ is love. Love covereth multitude of sins. Love helps you to look beyond a particular person and see the nature of God in it. Now, love also means that we will not discriminate. It doesn't matter whether this person is from your tribe or religion. No. Christ came for all. He died for all. And love entails loving everybody.
The governors of the Northeast region have been tasked to bring education on the front burner as a measure to tackle the security challenges in the region. Healthcare provision and youth empowerment are also critical needs for the people of the region as they set agenda for their governors-elect across 5 states of the region. Our correspondent Hajra Aliyu examines the issues and expectations of the people from the Northeast.
4 governors of the Northeast region have been returned to continue a second term in office, just as the 2023 governorship polls also produced one newly elected governor in the region, while the Adamawa State poll is still pending. For a region still hailing from the wounds of insurgency, its 26 million estimated inhabitants are setting high standards for their elected leaders. Across the states, they share a similar challenge in education. The sector is still bleeding from the impact of insurgency, with over 4 million children out of school in the Northeast. A task the governors are expected to give priority attention as a panacea to insecurity.
We will still request the governor to take education seriously, to look at the situation of the learners, especially in the schools, teachers, and invest more in that sector.
In Borno State, which was the epicenter of Boko Haram crisis, the rebuilding process is still ongoing. To meet the people's developmental expectations, the gains of security must be sustained.
We have so much to do on security. We have so much to do on reconstruction of communities and resettlement of IDPs and refugees, who are our brothers, sisters, children, and parents, and with no means of livelihood. We shall, inshallah, ensure that Borno is more secure than ever before.
The 2 neighboring states of Bauchi and Gombe states recently joined the ranks of oil-producing states. The governors have laid down infrastructure in their first tenures. However, some analysts underscore the need to properly exploit the gains of the oil sector as well as build human capital.
With the discovery of oil, we need to have the second industrial park near Kolmani, where all facilities will be provided, so that it will create enabling environment for the Kolmani to work. And by so doing, we will have the 13% derivation right away.
The governor has to work some magic in court, so that a lot of people have what to do, not necessarily depending on government. This is a very serious area which governments in northern Nigeria are neglecting, or they are lacking the capability.
Taraba State Governor-elect is the new entrant amongst them. Coming from a military background, he hopes to meet the expectations of the people.
The Mambila environment is a very huge potential for tourism, agriculture, and other activities you can think of. So we'll bring in experts, we'll bring in partners, we'll bring in investors to look at the environment and see how we can work together in collaboration with the state.
The Northeast people are known for livestock and crop production. The governors-elect, who are mostly experienced, are also expected to continue to explore this sector for economic growth and development. Hajara Aliyu, Channels Television News.
The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, is asking President Muhammadu Buhari to enforce the judgment by the ECOWAS Court of Justice prohibiting prosecutions of anyone on the grounds of insulting or stalking public officials online. SERAP says the court judgment compels the federal government to respect, protect, and promote freedom of expression, access to information, and media freedom. In a letter, the rights group raises concern about the shrinking civic space in the country, as some state governors and government institutions are reportedly using Section 24 of the Cybercrime Act and other repressive laws to crack down on anyone seeking to assert their human rights and media freedom. SERAP is also asking the President to prevail on the Minister of Information and Culture, Mr. Lai Mohammed, and the National Broadcasting Commission to reverse the fine of 5 million naira imposed on Channels Television over an interview granted the vice presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Dati Baba Ahmed. The group condemned the sanction, which it says is arbitrarily done. The rights group goes on to condemn the detention of a journalist, Agba Jalingo, who allegedly published an article considered to have insulted the sister-in-law of a sitting governor. The group described these arrests, detentions, and sanctions as restrictions on freedom of expression, access to information, and media freedom, and asked for their reversal. Armed bandits have abducted 2 female students of the Federal University Gusau in Zamfara State in the early hours of today. The incident happened around 1 a.m. Sunday when the kidnappers stormed the hostel located at Sabongida, a community opposite the main campus of the university. The 2 kidnapped victims are identified as Miriam and Zainab. Although police authorities in the state are yet to confirm the latest abduction, the spokesperson of the command, SP Mohammed Shehu, when contacted, told Channels Television that he will gather information on the incident and get back with necessary information needed. Sabongida village is a community opposite the main campus of the Federal University of Gusau, and it's about 20 kilometers to the state capital. Operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, the NDLEA, have declared the founder of Christ Power Adoration Ministries, Faith Ugochi, and a celebrity couple, Igo Ubiribo and Danielle Simba Allen, wanted for allegedly recruiting teenage girls into drug trafficking under the guise of working for the church. According to the NDLEA, their cover was blown at the import shed of the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Ikeja, Lagos, over a consignment of 32.70 kilograms of loud, that's a cannabis variant. In Kaduna, operatives raided Danwata village where they recovered 142.8 kilograms of cannabis, while another suspect was apprehended after abandoning 80,000 tablets of diazepam weighing 13.4 kilograms. In another operation, no less than 63 bags of cannabis sativa weighing 600 kilograms stored in a house in Okwe village in Akokwedu local government area were recovered. While in Cross River, 12,000 pills of tramadol 2 to 5 milligrams were seized from a female passenger after NDLEA operatives intercepted a commercial bus along Ogoja-Katsinala Road. Now, the federal government, in collaboration with the World Bank, is advocating the need for tree planting as part of efforts to mitigate the impact of climate change in the northern region and Nigeria as a whole. At a one-day workshop in agroclimatic resilience in a semi-arid landscape, stakeholders say planting of trees will help in greater measure to control desertification and land degradation in the country.
Stakeholders in the environmental sector across the 19 northern states converge on Gusau, the Zamfara state capital, for a one-day workshop organized by the federal government in partnership with the World Bank Agroclimatic Resilience in Semi-Arid Landscapes, ACRISAL. The workshop is aimed at addressing regional desertification problem, landscape management, as well as provide support for internally displaced persons with smart seedlings for their irrigation farming.
We aim to achieve the reclamation of 80,000 hectares in Zamfara State. Also to see that we have institutional capacity strengthening. You know, we have so many policies currently that are outdated. So the project is multi-sectoral. We are going to support the MDS to come up with policies that will ensure that our environment is safe, we improve agriculture, we improve the livelihood of our communities.
It will go a long way to improve all the environmental issues, environmental regime issues that affects our lives now, both man, land, and animals, the seas, the rivers, whatever you can think of that covers environment. So it's going to affect all the areas, and then it's going to go a long way to improve the living condition of our teeming people.
The Zamfara state government enumerates efforts it has made towards tackling the problem of desertification in the state.
We want to ensure that trees of economic importance have been provided to the local populace, who will be the target population that will benefit from this agricultural program. This is why His Excellency, through his normal way of making sure that our life has been improved, he has invested about 1 billion naira as his state counterpart for this program. So we expect a lot of benefits that will be coming to Zamfara because of this agricultural program.
Organizers say they expect the participants to share the knowledge they have acquired with their community members so as to ensure more results.
After 8 hours of intense work, the Lagos State Public Works have completed the scheduled maintenance of the field portion of the third mainland bridge. According to the General Manager, Engineer Lateef Shomide, the repairs became necessary following several complaints to motorists. Now, the bridge has been reopened to regular traffic. Well, our correspondent, Olu Phillips, brings this report.
If you are a frequent rider on the third mainland bridge, you must have been confronted with this field uneven surface. On either side of the road, it have tended potentials for upsets. Well, hearing about plans to fix it caught our attention owing to the history of repairs and inconveniences associated. More so, it remains the most viable link between the mainland and the island since the closure of a coal bridge for several months now. Very early in the day, apparatus from the Lagos Public Works began arriving the foot of the bridge for a scheduled repair work. To get the job underway and quickly so, traffic had to be diverted. One after the other, cones were carefully placed to narrow vehicular movement, and the tailback is all part of the anticipation, but one that the most senior officer here says is well intended.
This is, a work that has been planned for the past few weeks because of the sensitivity of these roads. So we find out that it's a federal road, and there's need for us, like Lagosians are complaining about these potholes here and there that be peeled off, on the road, and there's need for us to, expeditiously come around and see what to do. If Mr. Governor, called on us on the need for us to intervene, and there was a need for the special advisor had a kind of synergy with the federal government in this regard, the controller, and that's more reason why we are here today.
Millie, brushing, cleaning, cutting off, asphalt laying, smoothing, all engaged for an ultimate better motoring experience.
Perhaps you're watching this at home or wherever you may be, and you're seeing this stretch of traffic here on the 3rd Mainland Bridge, and you're wondering and asking yourself, not again on the 3rd Mainland Bridge, in addition to all of that traffic owing to repair work. But we have assurances from the Lagos State Public Works. As you can see to my front, work is going on in earnest to resurface and recarpet all of the peeled area on the 3rd Mainland Bridge. It's not something from the assurances we have that will last all day, all week, and maybe into the weeks. No, we just have, or they have just 120 meters to cover. Inbound at Deniji, 120 meters. Outbound at Deniji into Oworoshoki, 120 meters. And the hope is that all of this will be completed by dusk today, hopefully.
When it's all done, you will have something like this. It's also soothing to know that this isn't going to be another gridlock area owing to repair, as the work has since been completed and the road is available for the week's rush hour. Olu Phillips, Channels Television News.
Well, this year, Nigerians have felt the impact of younger people voting. Well, youth in diaspora also added their voices and finances to influence Nigeria's 2023 general elections. Well, tonight, our attention is on the trend and wave of Nigerians who are leaving the country, a term now popularly called Japa. Babajide Oguso, founder of Leadership by Data and Channels Television's data analyst, is here to share the facts about Nigeria's immigration challenges and opportunities. It's great to have you, Babajide, again on the News at 10.
Good evening, Ayo.
All right, so we're talking about emigration out of the country, the Japa syndrome. Tell me, how have Nigerians emigrated? What are the facts, even as we speak? Let's start with that.
Yeah, so we'll have to put numbers to it. But before we put the numbers, I'd like to start from a slightly different perspective. And that's because it's now 12.5 years, exactly on this day, Pope John Paul II passed away. Ayo, today, 200 Nigerians passed, but they didn't pass away. They passed through the Murtala Mohammed and Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport. They passed through our airports. And that's because if we look at the facts from the United Nations Department of Economics and Social Welfare, their evidence shows that on an average in Nigeria, 200 Nigerians japa. Let's take a look at the fact, and let's look at how it all has evolved in the last 3 decades. You see, in 1990, the evidence we have from the United Nations states that there were 446,000 Nigerian immigrants spread outside the country. In 1995, that had moved to 524,000. In other words, within 1990 and 1995, on an average, 43 Nigerians were leaving the country per day. Per day. 43 Nigerians were leaving every day between 1990 and 1995. Let's look at what has happened between 2000 and 2005. In 2000, we had 610,000 Nigerians living outside the country. They are taking a one-way ticket outside Nigeria with no plans to come back soon. By 2005, we had 817,000 Nigerians outside the country. In simple terms, within that 5-year period between 2000 and 2005, on an average, 114 Nigerians were leaving every day. However, look at the most recent trend. In 2015, we had 1.3 million Nigerians outside this country. By 2020, that had moved to 1.6 million Nigerians outside the country. In simple terms, Ayo, even
though 2020 was the year of a pandemic.
Exactly. Within 2015 and 2020, the facts in front of you show that on an average, within that 5-year period, every day, on an average, 200 Nigerians are on a one-way ticket in search of a better life. No plans to come back home soon. I'd like to explain why this number 1.6 million is important. You see,
probably also have to ask which country or which other countries that Nigerians are, of course, migrating to, and why are they doing that anyway? But go on.
Okay, so the first is 1.6 million Nigerians. What does it mean? You know, the National Stadium in Lagos, 45,000 seating capacity. It simply means if we were to seat all Nigerians that were outside this country in search of a better life, we'll need to build a stadium in every of the 36 states in Nigeria for us to have a seat for all Nigerians who have left. 1.6 million Nigerians is the equivalent of the population of Equatorial Guinea. In other words, Africa has lost a country. Now let's go into the fact of where do Nigerians go to? Where are majority of this 1.6 million Nigerians? And the evidence from the United Nations Department of Economics and Social Welfare, data that has been shared with me, shows that number one place, United States. We have 310,000 Nigerians living in the United States, and they are not tourists. They are Nigerians living there with no immediate plans to come back. The United Kingdom, 210,000 Nigerians living in the United Kingdom with no plans to immediately come back. Italy, 80,000 Nigerians living in Italy, and we see the growing trend of Canada. The evidence we have today shows that there are approximately 50,000 Nigerians living in Canada, the equivalent of the National Stadium in Lagos. That is the challenge we have today. Yes, we see some Nigerians still moving within Africa, but majority of Nigerians are going to high-income countries, the United States, the United Kingdom, Italy, and we see that wave of Canada. 50,000 Nigerians now living in Canada without any immediate plans to come back.
So who are the categories of people who are actually leaving Nigeria and migrating to these countries that you've talked about?
Again, there are different ways to look at it. What we see is when people leave, they're not just living with their bodies, they're living with ideas. Women, men, children are living with innovation. They're living with their talents. And if we take a look at where exactly, if you look at where, we've taken a look at where they are living to, but if you also take a look at who is coming into Nigeria, it allows you to understand that the high-income countries, the foreigners, are really not coming into Nigeria. Nigeria is only attracting its neighbors. And so majority of those that are coming into Nigeria are our neighbors, Benin, Ghana, Mali, Togo, Niger, Chad. So among the top 10 countries that are coming into Nigeria, all are within West Africa and our neighbors. In summary terms, Nigeria is not attractive enough for a lot of people who are looking for a good standard of living.
Wow, interesting. So what is the situation now with other migrants? I mean, when we talk about the African context, like what you pointed out here.
So we can look at the situation in Africa generally. The United Nations has made it clear that there are 40 million migrants in Africa, African people who are looking for other places where they will have a better standard of life. But the evidence also shows that out of these 40 million African migrants, half of them still stay in Africa. So you have a situation where people are leaving one African country to another African country. So in all 40 million African migrants, but half of these migrants still stay in Africa. Let's take a look at which other continents the other half of African migrants go to. And if we take a look at that, here are the facts. We see that in just 2 decades ago, we had 12.7 million African migrants only within Africa. Now we have 20 million out of the 40 million African migrants. But we have 11 million Africans who are searching for a better life in Europe. That is the number one destination they go to once they're able to find themselves outside Africa. Outside Europe, we have 4.7 million Africans who are searching for a better life in Asia. And then we have an additional 3.2 million Africans who are in Northern America, especially the United States of America. So in all, 40 million African migrants, 20 million within Africa, 11 million in Europe, 4.7 in Asia, and an additional 3.2 million in Northern America. But the fact still shows that there are 1.6 million Nigerians living outside the country, those that have jackpot. Those are the numbers. We've had that discussion.
And those 1.6 million who don't have any intention of coming back anytime soon.
1.6 million who don't have the intention. And so tonight we are putting numbers to the term jackpot, 1.6 million. How many people live on an average every day? 200 million Nigerians like you and I with a lot of talent, with a lot of ideas. They live with their children and they walk through the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport and the Murtala Mohammed Airport in search of a better life. In the final analysis, Nigeria needs to find a way to retain its talent and to attract others within Africa who have talent to reside in Nigeria. And the only way to do that is to make sure the environment supports productivity and generates income for those that want to come and reside in Nigeria. You know, Ayo, that term,
we really have to end it there. But I'm sure the word has gone out to the
that term
authorities.
jackpot, if you just take that A and you put it behind, it moves from jackpot to something else, and I'll tell you what it means later.
We'll leave that at that. Thank you so much, Babajide Ogunsanya, Channels
I hope you don't jackpot.
I hope you don't. I'll reserve my comments for that one. But of course, we love Nigeria.
Yes.
Anyway. And now to the arts. Introspection is a traveling exhibition by contemporary artist Muyiwa Akinwolere at the Thought Pyramid Art Center in Lagos. Now, the artist presents works of art that capture social issues in a light-hearted and sarcastic way. We see some of these images on the Art Review tonight.
This traveling exhibition of visual illustrations, Muyiwa Akinwolere's sarcasm has finally come to the Thought Pyramid Art Center in Lagos with a tale of a bard in a show titled Introspection, which expresses the artist's thought process.
To introspect is to think deeply, to reflect. And the idea is it's about illustrating my thought process over a period of time. I have created different body of work for many years that I've been practicing, and I was thinking that I would like to have a show where all these different body of works that depicts the movement of how my career has evolved over the years, I could pull them together in a show. So that it could not just be for the show alone, but as a sort of documentation of what I've done in a period of my career.
In this documentation, the stories, which are told through an array of exciting paintings, explore different issues in the society, from the political, social, economical, emotional, and other aspects of human existence, especially within the Nigerian space, by being sarcastic.
Muyiwa Akinwolere is an artist who is very sarcastic. He looks at the situation of the country, politically and socially, and he talks about them in a satiric way, even though they are funny, but they are visuals that make you think, that makes you look at what's happening and what you think you can do. Why are these things happening? So in a way, when you look at his works, you tend to start questioning yourself for what is happening around you. So that's why you may want to engage his works.
The topics displayed by Muyiwa Akinwolere in this solo show are issues that people will be able to relate to and hopefully affect their peace of mind positively.
The former Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Haile Mariam Desalegn, has applauded Rwanda for setting the pace in political inclusiveness, running a disciplined party and being transparent. Despite the achievements of the nation and its leaders, he urges them not to become complacent over the successes it has recorded in the last 35 years. He was speaking at the 35th anniversary of the party and genocide.
It's the 35th anniversary of the Rwanda Patriotic Front, the political party that came into leadership in 1994 after the genocide that claimed an estimated 800,000 lives.
Be accountable. Think big.
Over 1,000 delegates from across the globe have converged on Kigali for this event. Amongst the participants is the President Paul Kagame, his wife, and top government officials. The major part of the conversation here is how Rwanda has moved into nation building and how Africa can take charge of its future. The applause is loudest for setting the pace in good governance, running an all-inclusive government, and a disciplined political party. There is also a warning not to be complacent.
And there are two basic things that RPF has become successful as far as I am concerned. The first one is, as we are leading a transition economy where governments has to play a major role, then as Comrade Tito said, we are always at the temptation to capture government and then a certain group of elites, benefiting from the system.
The people have shifted their minds from what they actually know that should be done, that we have discussed and debated, to what they are being told they must do because they need that money that comes with it to implement it. So there is something lacking on our side in terms of ownership of ideas or even learning to do what we have already learned.
The socio-economic achievements of Rwanda are quite obvious, and other nations can borrow a leaf.
There was no better way to mark this 35th anniversary than to reflect into how the party got here and how is it moving forward, and to have a conversation about the linking it also to the rest of the countries in the continent and where Rwanda stands today also within the continent. I think Rwanda has showcased how transformation is possible, how since the genocide against the Tutsis they managed to transform the country and bring it forward with a leadership, with a strong leadership, with a strong accountability and anti-corruption system. That was a lot. There was reflections around these matters in the first panel this morning, and how important accountability and institutions and governance is in moving forward the country and the transformation as a key of success for the future.
What you're able to invest to the young generation, the young people, 35 years. When you are reached 35, we're already an adult. But think about the one behind you. And who also have to understand the history of the country and to not make another mistake of going behind and going through what Rwanda went through.
African nations have a neighbor in Rwanda that has shown the way in many areas of governance and political leadership. It may not be perfect, but it is a path that can be looked into and examples borrowed from.
A series of tornadoes have killed at least 26 people after it tore through towns and cities in the south and midwest of the United States. Some homes were destroyed and thousands left without power after huge storms caused destruction across several states. According to the National Weather Service, there have been more than 80 reported tornadoes since March 31st. States including Arkansas, Tennessee, Illinois, Indiana, Alabama, and Mississippi have all had fatalities. Russia's Interior Ministry has confirmed the killing of prominent Russian military blogger Vladlen Tatarsky in a bomb blast in a St. Petersburg cafe on Sunday. At least 25 people were injured in the explosion. Vladlen Tatarsky, whose real name was Maxim Fomin, was a guest speaker at an event hosted by the cafe when the bomb went off. Vladlen was a vocal supporter of Russia's war in Ukraine. He had reported from the Ukrainian front line and gained particular notoriety last year after posting a video filmed inside the Kremlin. St. Petersburg news site Fontanka reports that the cafe targeted on Sunday was previously owned by Yevgeny Prigozhin, the head of Russia's notorious Wagner mercenary group. Time now for some sports news. Bandits Insurance Football Club have extended their unbeaten run in the Nigeria Premier League to 12 games as the Benin Arsenal forced host Plateau United to a 1-1 draw at the new Jos Stadium. Izuchukwu Chimeze got the opener in the 42nd minute. Deputy Echeta got the equalizer on the 72nd minute to maintain the lead at the top of Group A with 26 points. Shooting Stars recorded only a away win of the day as they edged host Kwara United thanks to Joshua Akpan's 90th minute goal for the visitors. Akwa United beat Eyimba in Uyo. Bayelsa United recorded the biggest win of the day, thrashing Abia Warriors 5-1. Doma United and Wiki Tourists all recorded home wins. In England, Newcastle United FC have leapfrogged Manchester United into third place in the Premier League table after avenging their Carabao Cup final defeat against the Red Devils. Joe Willock put two glaring misses behind him to send the Magpies on their way to a deserved 2-0 win over their opponents. The Magpies produced a magnificent display to leave their opponents, Man United, without a win or a goal in their past three top-flight games. Meanwhile, West Ham United climbed out of the relegation zone as Naif Aguerd's first goal for the club sealed a crucial win against fellow strugglers Southampton. Chelsea FC has sacked coach Graham Potter earlier today after the London Giants had slipped into the bottom half of the Premier League. Chelsea's 2-0 home defeat to Aston Villa on Saturday left them in 11th place in the table and 5 points off any European spot. Potter had replaced Thomas Tuchel, the German tactician, at Chelsea in September last year after a successful 3-year spell with Brighton. Despite the team's poor domestic form, he had guided them to a Champions League quarter-final against Real Madrid, the first leg of which takes place in 10 days' time. And the main news again. Recuperating Pope Francis today marks Palm Sunday in the Vatican Square, where he asked the Church to be close to those abandoned as Christians worldwide commemorated the triumphant entry of Christ into Jerusalem. Also today, the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project asked President Muhammadu Buhari to enforce the judgment of the ECOWAS Court prohibiting prosecutions for cyber stalking. And that's the news at 10 tonight. Many thanks for watching. I'm Ayo Tunde Balogun. Have a good night.